Hello everyone and welcome. My name is Asandar and today we are going to learn how to code. In this video, I will going to teach you the basic of HTML, CSS and JavaScript. Then I'm going to show you how you can do a vibe coding. This is where we are going to use AI to handle the syntax while we focus on logic and design. That is called vibe coding. So let's start by the basic of HTML. So first you will need an IDE editor. You can use Notebook, but I will prefer to use the VS Code. So you need to go into your browser and search VS Code. And then you will see the VS Code website. You need to click on this link and download this for Windows. Then you will see download for Windows, depend on the other platform. If you are on a Mac or Linux, so you can download from here. So once downloaded, you just need to install the setup and configure everything once finished. So once finished, what you need to do, go to any of your drive, create a folder. For example, I've created this learning folder. Right click on this and you will see open with VS Code. So what I have done that I have opened this VS Code in this specific folder where I want to build my project. So once we are in a VS folder, we need to create a HTML file, our first file. So click on this new file from here, or you can click new file from here. Or one of the most easiest ways, you see this icon, you can click here to create a new file. And if you want to create another folder inside the folder, you can click this to create a new folder. So I'm just going to create a basic HTML file, which I'm going to call it index.html. So that is the basic index.html file. So now if I go to this W3 website, which is very great platform to learn your HTML basics. So I'm going to teach you from this website. So what is HTML? HTML is a simple document. It's just like a structure of a website. Just you can take an example as a human bone. You can take an example as a human. A human has a structure which carries all the weights and all the mass of the body is called bones. So bone is basically an HTML of the web development. So HTML is just a structure of the website. So in this structure, there are called HTML tags and HTML elements. So I'm going to first start with the tags. What does tags mean? For example, if you want to write anything, you need to close everything into this opening tag. This is called opening tag. And this is called closing tag. So what do I mean with this opening and closing tag? For example, I want to write a heading. So H1, I'm going to put H1 is a heading, is one of the most bigger heading. And if you want to go lower, the H2, H3, the H4, etc. We're going to talk about this. So this is what we call a tag, an opening tag and a closing tag. So between the opening and closing tag, no matter if we are putting an heading or paragraph or image or anything, it has to have an opening and closing tag. And in a between, I want to create a heading. So in a between of this opening and closing tag, I can write anything. So I will call this a heading and save it. So once I save this file and if I open this in my browser, you can see there is a heading. And if I right click and inspect and see the element, you can see that I have a heading. So the H1 opening and closing tags is not readable once the user is using the front end of your website. These are the logic of the backends. Okay, so you need to understand this. Okay, before moving further, I need to tell you the basic structure of the HTML. So this is the basic structure of HTML, which includes the HTML opening and closing tag. Then you can see that we have a head tags, and then you can see the body tags. So I'm going to explain it. So everything in a website that you are going to build in a pages or in a blog, so your all the contents for one specific page. For example, if you have a page of about us and if you have a page of contact us, these are two different pages and have two different information. So these two information which are differentiated from these two pages should be go into the body tags. So everything go into the body tags. Either you're creating about us, either you're creating a contact us, or either you're getting your any services information. And now this is also called, now we also have a head. Now head is a global tag which will be present in all your website. For example, you have a title. I want to build my website for learning purpose. If I change this title learning and save it, you see the tab of this website will call learning. So most of the head are going to use for titles, or if you want to connect Google Analytics or Google Search Console, all the analytic or script code which use your website, all the scripts, analytic or search console which are needed for a global website are going to be in the head. And also there's one more tag called footer. We are going to talk about it later, but let's first focus on the body tag. So we have learned about the h1 tags. So I'm going to put the h1 tags again. You see, opening tag, and in opening tag, I'm defining this tag as an h1, and I'm going to close this tag as a h1. And now in between the opening and closing tag, I'm going to put a heading. So I'm going to call it a learning. So you can see, so once I save this and go to the website, you'll see my h1 heading is there. And if I go to the inspect element, you can see our h1 tags is inside the body. So this is called h1. So there is one more tag called I have a heading, now I need a paragraph. So these are the two basic and most usable tags that are going to be used in HTML structure. Is called hashtags and paragraph tags, and also the image tags. We are going to talk it later. So now let's focus on paragraph. So paragraph T tags is very simple. Paragraph me, you need to put a P tag, and opening T mean a paragraph, opening tag, and a closing tags. So this is called a paragraph tag. So now you can put any paragraph. I'm going to put a lorem ipsum. Lorem ipsum is a W tags which you can use while building your website. I'm going to search for any lorem ipsum, and I'm going to copy this lorem ipsum. I'm going to paste this all the tag inside the paragraph. Now if I go to the website front page, you will see we have a paragraph tag, and if I go to the inspect element, I can see my paragraph is there. So now we have learned about h1 paragraph. Now let's move further and let's talk about the image tags. Image tags, this is also very straightforward and simple. So first let's download an image. I'm going to search an image for a BMW car, and I'm going to download this image. Let's download this one. Okay, I'm going to download this image. I'm going to download, and make sure when you are downloading the image, it should be inside this folder, the folder we are working on our website project. So I have downloaded the images. So image tags are different from h1 and p tag because these tags are called self-closing tags. What I mean by that, so for the image tags, it's very simple. You need to define the source inside the image. For the source, you need to type src. src mean where is the image is getting from, where is the part of the image. So we have already put our image inside a folder, so we just need to define the image name. You see it has already get the image. I'm just going to click on this, and I also need to define what this image is about. So for this we need alternative text. So for alternative text there's a short form called ALT, and press and enter. Now you need to define what this image is for. We have downloaded an image as a BMW car, so I'm just going to call it BMW. That's it, and I'm going to save it. Now you can see our image is showing as a front end. Now you can also see that our text and our heading and image are all looking very dull. And also now if I go to the W3 schools, you will see that there is a lot of HTML tags. For example, HTML attribute tags. Now it will tell you about the different attributes. For example, let's take this example of a tag. Now a tag is used for a link. For example, if you want to create a button, or if you want your user to click on any specific link so it can redirect or take him to another page on another blog of your website. So for that we use an a tag. A tag is a link tag in an HTML. So it has, now this has an opening and closing tag. Okay, so this has an opening and closing tags. This is not a self-closing tags. So there's two type of tags, of self-closing tags, which we have already used for the image, which doesn't have a closing tag, and also we have tags which have an opening and closing tags. So now to define the a link in your website, you need to first put a label. So label mean, for example, I want to take my user to see for example Google search result. I want to take my user to Google search result, but you see that this is just a label. I want this label to be a clickable link. To make this clickable link, you need to define the href. Href means you need to define what specific internal link will this specific label will be. To define the internal link inside the opening tag, you need to type href. Href means you are defining which hypertext link you are going to make this label. So I'm going to make this label. For example, let's go to the Oxford. I'm going to make this internal link as a Oxford, and I'm going to make this Oxford lifetime, and I'm going to make this an internal link for Oxford. And you can see I have defined the hypertext in the href, inside the href, and inside the a opening tag, and I have defined the label which will be shown to the front-end user, which they can click on this and it will take them to this specific URL. Now let's test this. If I save this, refresh the page, you will see we have this internal link. We have created a label called Oxford Lifetime, and we have an internal link called Oxford. If I click on this, it will take you to that specific website URL called Oxford. So this is called a link. Now let's get back to the W3 school, and we have talked about the heading, paragraph. You can learn about different heading. There's 6 type of headings, and each heading has its own sizes. H1 is the main heading. For example, I will give you an example just to understand this, why there are 6 type of headings. So these headings are very important for the SEO purposes. For example, if you are creating a website for let's say for HTML headings, you see HTML headings. So this HTML heading is going to be your main focus keyword. You want when someone search in a Google HTML headings to your website available. So every page has a one main keyword. So that main keyword will always be defined in H1. and then you have a secondary keywords. So then these secondary keywords can be like 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, or maximum it can be 10. It depends on a user, but the maximum limitation is 8 to 10 for a recommended limitation. So you can define all these secondary keywords in H2 and H3, and then further it doesn't matter. I'm just telling you about the SEO rules. So these three are very important and play a very important role in your SEO. We have talked about the paragraph. Now we are going to talk about the classes. I'm going to talk about the class and ID. What exactly is this class and ID? To first understand this class and ID, we also need to understand the styling of our elements. So there's two types of styling. One is internal style and one is external style. I will start with the internal style. So there's the inline style and there's the internal style. What do I mean by that? Inline style means I want to make this heading color red. So I'm going to use an internal style method. So for the internal style, you need to define a style. You need to define an style inside an opening tag of H1 or paragraph. For example, I'm going to put style, press enter, and what style do I need? I need to make this a red color. So I'm going to define a color and a colon. A colon means that now we need to explain what exactly type of color we need. So after the colon, you're going to put your any color. I'm going to put it red. And I'm going to put an exclamation which will telling the style that after I've defined the color, now this is the end of this line. And now if I go to the front page of my website, you will see the heading color will be changed into red. You see our heading color has changed into the red. Now there is also called thing a hexacode. Now what are these hexacode? Hexacode are the code which define the different colors. There are so many hexacolor. You can learn the basic. Every color has its own unique hexacolor and RGB. So for example, if there's like so many shades of reds. If I can define only one color in the word a red, but what type of a red? So you can use a color picker for hexacode. Every color has its own unique hexacode. For example, for the black we can either use you have to put a hashtag and define the hexacode. So this is the 0 hexacode for black color. Either you can define for 3 times or either you can define for 6 times. So 6 is the maximum limit for hexacode. You cannot proceed further with that. So this is for black, as you can see, and every different color has own hexacode. So I'm going to put a red one for this heading. So we are going to put the same thing with a paragraph. We need to define the style inside the closing tag of a paragraph. And inside the style, I'm going to define, this time I'm going to define a size of a paragraph. You can see you can define different things for inline styling. Color is just one example. You can define margin, position, padding, background color, font family, font size, different things. To learn about all these things, you need to head to the W3 school and you need to check the styling of the HTML. Let's say the HTML style guides. Here it will going to we need to go to the CSS, and it will going to tell you all about the styling. We are going to just learn the basic of the styling. So let's for this time I'm going to use a color and a size. So I'm going to define the two things here. A color, so this will be column, and I'm going to make it let's make it a purple, and then you will notice I will put an exclamation. So exclamation means after that this line is finished. I've already defined the one style of this inline for this paragraph and inline type. So after that I can define more styling. For example, what do I mean? Now I want to define a style size of this paragraph. I'm going to put a size, a colon, an exclamation, and inside middle of the after the colon, because after the colon you need to explain what will the value of this specific style that you are give. So I'm going to make this size let's say 24 pixel. So I'm going to save it. You can see our paragraph has been changed to the purple, and if I go to the element and see, I'm sorry, it is not called size, it's called font size. And if I refresh the page, you will see the font size has been increased, and you can also see in an spec that our color is purple and the font size is 24. So these are the online styles. There's so many ways you can give the style. For example, I can define more. For example, I want this background color to be let's say gray, and I'm going to save it. So the background color will be gray of this specific paragraph. Now we're going to talk about the div. So what exactly is the div? You can take an example as a boxes. For example, you have a room, and inside the room you have multiple different items with different sizes, and now you want to arrange this item inside inside the boxes. For example, if you have a bigger item, you want to put it in a bigger box, and if you have a smaller items, you are going to put all the smaller items inside the smaller box. So div also works as a boxes. You are putting all the HTML tag inside the box to make it readable for the developer. So we're going to use a div. To use a div, you are going to use an opening tag and it is called div, and a closing tag. For example, I want to put this h1 tag inside the div, inside the box. I can put the h1 and p, and I can put all the h1 paragraph and image and h1 all them inside the div. But I'm going to put just this heading inside the div. So you need a closing tag, and you need an opening tag, and then you need a closing tag where you want to put any HTML inside the div. So this h1 now is inside a box inside the div, and if I go to the front end of the website and see the inspect, you will see our h1 is inside the div. You see, this is the div, and inside the div we have closed the h1. What is the purpose of this div? Now what we can do with the div, we can arrange our so now, as we have given the inline style to the paragraph, we can also give the inline style to the div directly. So you don't have to give inline style to the elements. So we are going to make the background. We can make the background color of this div. Let's say this aqua white, and let's refresh this. You can see our div color is div color, background color is changed, but our heading text color is the same. So this is called div, and now we can put a bigger element in a bigger div. To put that, we can use div, and I'm going to close all this paragraph, image, and link tag inside a div. And if I go to the front end of the website, you see all the elements, the paragraph, image, and links are inside the div. So the reason we do that to make the code more arrangeable, to read it more easy for the user and also easy for the browser and the server to read. So this is called a div, and there's also another thing called span. Now span is a different thing. It's work exactly like a div, but we use it for different purpose. For div, we are closing everything inside a bot. Take a span as you want to put some very small items or anything and private inside a plastic sheet. So this is called span. So for example, this is a text called this, but I want only this specific text to have a different color. So what I can do, I can use span. Remember what the example that I've given you is a plastic sheet. I want my item to be wrapped, a specific item in wrapped into plastic sheet. So span work exactly like that. So I'm going to put a span, an opening tag of span, and a closing tag for a span. And save it. If I go to the front end of the website and check my paragraph, you will see that the specific paragraph text is now wrapped inside the span. And also you can see how this doesn't move the text to the next line, because you are just wrapping this specific part inside a plastic sheet. You're not putting it in a box, a separate box. So now I can do the different styling to this specific paragraph, part of the paragraph. What I mean, I can give it a different color. I will put a style and give it a color of let's give it the color Greek. I'm going to give it the subcolor Greek. And you can see the specific part of this paragraph is now Greek. You can do whatever you want with the span. If you want, you can make it bold. So there's a different type of CSS tags. You can go to the W3 HTML and learn about that. I'm not going to go all the time. I'm just giving a basic example. I'm going to teach you a basic of the HTML. So once you get the basic, there's so many tags you can learn and play with them. So let's say the bold tags. So to make the text bold, you don't need a span. Even just simply make any text or any heading or any paragraph or any label a bold text. To make them, you need to close the specific text inside the strong tag. You need an opening tag for strong and a closing tag for strong. Now this specific part of the paragraph will be bold. Let's change the color so it can be more readable. I'm going to remove the background color, and let's make this background color a white so we can understand which text is, and also make this a black color. Now we can see to the text. You can see that this specific part is bold. If I go to the inspect element, and you can see that this specific part is strong, and this is a bold. This is how you can bold any specific part of the text in paragraph HTML or your button or anything. So now let's move to the class and ID. Now what is class and ID? Class is basically for example, you have a multiple headings. Let's say H2 headings. We are using an H2 headings to define the paragraph. I'm going to get the multiple H2 with paragraph. So this is my H2 and this is called learning again and closing tag for h2, and we have a paragraph. What I'm going to do, I'm going to copy this. I'm going to remove these two just so I can clearly understand you what exactly I mean by class. I'm going to copy this div and create like 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now you can see we have 4 h2 headings and 4 paragraph. Now in the website you can see learn again and a paragraph, learn again and a paragraph. Now imagine that you have a single page website and it's a lengthy website and you have to define the heading and paragraph multiple times, and now you want to give a different styling to this h2. For example, I want this h2 to be I'm going to give an inline style, a color, let's say I'm going to give it a color red. Color red. I'm going to give it a red color. So now this paragraph is in a red color. But the problem is I have 3 more. So now I have to repeat this parts like style color red inside this, and then again this, then again this. Imagine if you have a lengthy website, so it will be a tiring bar. So this is where a class came. So the class will going to make our work easy. So instead of defining this style and then again, we are going to give this as to a class. To give a class is very simple. You need to put a class, and inside this comma, inside this, you need to give a unique class thing. You can give it anything. Like for example, this is a heading 2. I'm going to give it I'm going to call it let's call it just a heading. So this is the class that I've given you. Now I'm just going to copy this. I'm going to put all of them this class. That's it. Now we have our same class, so all of the h2 headings. Now we can give a style to this class. We can put a style to this class, and this style will going to apply on all the h2 headings. So our style will be consistency, and we don't have to put again and again styling to different h2. To make this, now we have learned about the inline styling. Now we are going to learn about the internal styling. To use the internal styling, you need to create a style tag inside the head. You need to create the style tags. So we are going to define the style inside the head rather than internal styling. So this is called internal styling. This is called inline style, which we have done here. And now this is called internal styling. So to do the internal styling, inside the head tags, we are going to define an opening tag for style and closing tag for the style. And between that, we are going to define the style. So now we want to style the class. To define the class, we need to put a dot. So there's a two differentiate. For the class, we use dot to differentiate between the ID. And for the ID, we use this hashtags. We're going to see the example. So now we are giving a style to the class. So we are going to use a dot and the name of the class. The name of the class is heading. And so once you have put the class name with a dot, you need to put a curly bracket. Now inside the curly bracket, I'm going to define the styling now. So what I've done, to give an internal styling, you need a style opening and closing tag. Then you need to define the class name which you want to give the styling. And then once you have given a class name, so this is what I'm telling, that I want to give a styling to this class. And now what styling I need to define the values that this class will have. So you need to put the opening and closing curly bracket, and inside the curly bracket, now you can define your class, whatever you like. For example, I want to make the font size 32 pixel, and in the next line, enter. Now I can define a second styling. I want this to be color in red, and I can just keep going. Like for example, I can put a padding. Padding basically is like giving a space to the h2, like from the left, right, top, bottom. You can define how much space that this h2 should have. So if I'm going to put a padding, so there's a two type of value you can give to the padding. One is a global. So what does this mean? That I give a padding to the h2 element on all four sides of 20 pixel. So all four sides of 24 pixel. But if I want the top to have 20 pixel and a bottom to have 30 pixel. So what that mean? The top and the bottom will be 20 pixel and the left and the right will be 30 pixel. And I can go more. I can say like this will be 20 pixel and this will be 30 pixel. Now there's four sides. I will define all the four sides: top, left, bottom, right. So I've defined all the four sides, and I can define whatever value I want and how much spacing that I want in my h2. So let's see the front end of the website. If I go to the learning, and now you can see that our h2 has a color, and all the h2 has a color. Now I don't have to define the color one by one. All our h2 has a color and a padding. You can see the padding at the top, left, right, and a bottom. So this is called a class. Now class can be used multiple times and can be distributed to multiple HTML elements. Now let's talk about the ID. Now ID cannot be used multiple times. What I mean by that, for example, if I get this h2, I have a h2, and this is a unique HTML element, a unique value that you want this value cannot be repeated by another HTML element, or cannot be copy his style by another HTML element. So you give an ID. So I'm going to give this paragraph an ID. So to define an ID, you need to put a so now you need to define an ID. So now I'm going to call it a paragraph. Okay. Now this is called ID for this paragraph. And if I want to give this an ID, so I cannot use a same ID name paragraph. It is not allowed. ID can only be unique and can only be used once in a HTML element. Understood? So to give an ID to this paragraph, I need to change the name. It has to be unique from what I have given here. So this, to make it unique, now I'm going to put one. So this is a paragraph, this is ID, a unique ID, and this is a paragraph 1, this is a unique ID. So now you can define the multiple IDs to specific HTML element, but this has to be unique. So ID has to be different. You cannot put the same ID name. So ID name has to be unique and different. But the class, you can repeat a multiple class into multiple HTML element to make the design consistent. And for the ID, it has to be unique. Each element has its own unique ID. You cannot repeat the same ID name into multiple HTML elements. So I have put this ID paragraph and a paragraph 1, so I can do a different styling to this ID. For the ID, we are going to use hashtag remember and opening and closing curly brackets, and I'm going to give it a color called red. So now you can see we have this paragraph ID, a unique ID, and a different unique ID. So this is the basic of HTML. To learn more, I will recommend you to go to the W3 schools, and there's so many HTML elements that you can cover from here. And for the styling, we have learned about the inline style and internal style. Now let's talk about the external style. For the external style, you see we have for the HTML, we have created the file called .html. Now to create an external style file, we can create a new file. Let's call it a stylesheet.css. So CSS means cascading style sheet. So this is the extension for your style. So we have created a style sheet. Now we need to link our style sheet to the index.html. To do that, we need to inside the head, we need to link our style sheet. I'm going to remove this file. I'm going to save it somewhere safe, and I'm going to link this style sheet with our HTML page. To link the external style, we're going to use a cell closing tag called links. So you remember, cell closing tag doesn't have a closing tag. This is just a one tag, and inside the tag we define every value. So inside the link we have a related mean we are linking the style sheet and the href we are defining the path where this file is. So we have already this file inside the folder, so we are just going to put a file name. So now we have defined the style sheet, and our style sheet is link. If I go to the front end of the website and refresh, all the style are gone. So we have all the style. We are just copying the CSS which we have used previously, and now you can see we don't need an opening and closing tag of style, because this is a external style sheet. You are just going to define all your styling inside here, and I have defined my style. We have already linked our style sheet. Now if I go to the front end of the website, refresh, okay, so the issue was you need to define the related correctly by calling it style sheet, and you need to define the correct path for the style sheet. Once you do that, you need to put all your style inside this file. And also remember, we are not using any style opening or closing tag, because this is a separate style sheet. We are just going to define our style. So once you do that, we are going to refresh the page, and all our stylings will be coming from external sheet. So now we can separate our style and our HTML in a different file. So in this way, our codes are more readable and it can be arranged in a very good way. So we have learned about the HTML and CSS. To further learn about the tags and syntax, I recommend you to go to the W3 schools, and there's so many things you can learn from here. Now let's go to the JavaScript. So JavaScript is basically make your website functional. For example, HTML is a structure of your website. CSS is to make your website look good. Like for example, a makeup. You're just doing a makeup in your website to make it in a presentable way. But it is just a structure, a non-living structure which doesn't move and doesn't do anything. To make your website livable and make it work in a different way, we use a JavaScript. So JavaScript is like making your website alive. So JavaScript we use to create a different functions. For example, if you click on any button, then this specific menu will open, and if you fill a form and click this button, then it will send you a request. So these type of things we are going to use see a different example for this HTML. So if you are in a W3 school, if you go to the JavaScript, you can learn JavaScript here easily. So we are going to just see the basic of JavaScript. So let's do with this sample. So what this sample is doing, it is changing the date and time per second every time when I click on this button. You see? So to do that, they are using an inline JavaScript function. Okay, so there's also an inline JavaScript and external JS file, just like the CSS we have used for the inline, and for the we can use a JS. Okay, for the JS, if you are using an internal JS, we are going to use internal JS at the end of the file. If you are using a internal CSS with a style tag, and we are going to use it at the top in the head. And if we are using a JavaScript, internal JavaScript, we are going to use it after the body in a script. To define in JavaScript, it should be in an opening and closing tab of a script. So inside here, you can define all your JavaScript. So we are seeing an example of this JavaScript. So what this JavaScript is saying, an on-click function, element get by ID, demo in an HTML date. Okay, so what is doing that? There is a paragraph called P. A P paragraph, if I click it, so it's defined a paragraph. So just call paragraph. So what is doing that? This paragraph has a unique ID called demo. So it has defined a JavaScript function called onClick. It means that whenever someone on-click this button, I want you to update the ID of this paragraph. You see, we have this demo ID, ID of this paragraph to the current date. So what is happening when I'm clicking this button, it is updating the current date with the seconds of this paragraph. So this is called dynamic text. So there's two types of things, dynamic and external text. A dynamic and static text. Static means that once you are typing something like, for example, my name is Hassan. So this is a static text. It cannot be changed. So you need to change this text again and again by yourself. So the dynamic text, like for example, date or analytics. So these are the dynamic information which change every day automatically, depend on the analytics, depend on the stats of the current date or current information. Let's see another example of so this is a JavaScript. I'm not going to give a complete guide on JavaScript. To learn the JavaScript, head back to W3 school and you can learn all the syntax of JavaScript from here. I'm going to just give you an example. You can see an operator JS if condition. Now let's check the if condition. So what's happening here? What does if mean? So if mean is you are putting a condition. If the result match, then you are going to give the value to the user. For example, what's happening here? There's a paragraph called display good day if the hour is less than 18. And so you can see what is doing that. It is checking a date of current date. For example, currently it is like 15. Okay, so if the hour is less than 18, my current hour is 15 right now, and it is definitely less than 18. So it is displaying good day. What I do if I reduce the value here and I say if the hour is less than 14, then display good evening. I'm going to run. You see, now my value is less than 15. is less than 50. Now it is displaying the good evening, not good morning. So what is doing that? It is putting a condition. If the condition match, like the date of the current hour is less than 14, then what it will do, it will update the ID of this paragraph into a message called good day. But if this condition doesn't match, then it will going to print this message called good evening. So this is how JavaScript work. Yeah, this called DOM manipulation. DOM manipulation, I'm going to give you an example. What does DOM manipulation mean? DOM manipulation, if I open the expect element, and inside the element you see all these codes. This is called DOM. This is what the terminology in web development called DOM. Now each DOM can be manipulated by JavaScript. What we did, we are manipulating a DOM into a to display a different message or changing the ID, these type of things. So I will encourage you to learn about the JavaScript. This called JS if-else conditions. This is also very usable. This is also very a good example. So we are going to see this one last time. So we are going to see this example and then we will move to vibe coding. So what's happening here, there's a paragraph called a time-based greeting and a second paragraph with the ID demo. So you see how it has given the JavaScript inside the script. So what's happening here, it has defined a constant hour. So now to understand this constant and variable, constant has to be a unique and variable can be multiple times. No. You need to understand the difference between constant and variable. If I go to the variables in here, you will see the example. It is explaining the different variables. This is called variables. There's a let variable, there's a constant variable, and there's also in old JavaScript we will use this var called variable, but in the modern JavaScript it is not recommended, and now we use let for the variable and constant, which is still used today. So you can understand the difference between them. I'm going to just explain this information. So constant is a variable, you have given a variable name, but this variable name hour, you need to store some value. For what value you are storing, you are saying that I'm going to create a constant and this constant name, that is a constant. Now you given the name of this constant called hour. Now after this, you have defined the value, store a value inside this hour. What you have said that you have created a function which will store whatever the hour is available right now inside this constant. Okay. Now here you have created an other variable called let. I tell you there's two type of this is a constant which has a unique name, and there's a let and which you can give and any name and can be repeated multiple times. So you have an other variable called greeting. So you have two variables called constant hour, which you store a value of the current hour, and you have another constant called greeting. Now you have created a condition called if the hour is less than 18. If the hour is less than 18, then you see that in this store, in this variable, a value called good day. You understand? You have this variable, you want to store some value. So what you say, you have created a condition called if the hour is less than 18, store the value inside this variable called good day. But you have also created an other nested condition called else. If this condition doesn't match, then store the value in this variable called good evening. So now there's two type of condition happening, if else. If this condition match, then store this value. But in this condition not match, then store this value inside this variable. You understand? Now if I run this is a good day. But what will happen if I make this value less? Let's make it 14. Now you will see the value. It in this value is greeting is saving good day because your condition was matching. The hour was more than 18. So you are uh, storing the message called good day inside this variable, and this variable is printing the message inside this paragraph called demo id. Okay, now if I less the condition, now this condition doesn't match if condition, so now you will see that the else condition will going to run good evening. So this is how JavaScript works. So to learn more about JavaScript, because this is a very lengthy topic and it cannot be covered in a one video, I'm just trying to give you a basic overview of the JavaScript. So head to the W3 schools. It has from beginners to advanced, every JavaScript variable functions, everything is here. So once you understand the basic of HTML, CSS and JavaScript, and you already know we are living in the era of artificial intelligence, our web development has moved into an AI models. What does it mean? AI models mean vibe coding. Vibe coding, what does that mean? You have understanding of the basic, you have understanding of the web development, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, their function, how they work. So you don't want to work. You want your AI models to create a website to code for you, but you are going to give an instruction what exactly the website and what's exactly the function it will be. So let's start with this new topic called how to use and what is a vibe coding. So to do the vibe coding, I'm going to use an IDE called Cursor. It is a currently most famous or used IDE for vibe coding. So head back to Google, go to Cursor and download this setup inside. In your Windows, if you are using a Mac, you can check another setup. So I have already downloaded the Cursor and set up the Cursor. Once you have downloaded and set up the Cursor in your Windows, so we are going to use the same thing. I'm going to go into any drive and create a folder and going to give this folder name vibe coding. Inside this folder, I'm going to open my Cursor code editor. Right click and I will see open with this cursor. So once your cursor is open, you will see in an interface different with the visual editor. It's not a very different, it's the same, but I'm going to define the how this cursor is going to use. So in the left side, this is the same way you're going to build your files and folders. And in the middle, you will see all your codes, which are going to be created by the AI models. And at the right hand side, you will see a chat box where you're going to give a command or information to your AI agent to build. To use the cursor, you need to subscribe into any of the plan. Remember that the plans are not very expensive. You can use a free plan and an individual plan and team plan. If I remove the auto mean that it will automatically utilize whatever the model it is, and it is going to save your tokens. What are the tokens? I'm going to explain this. If I go to the dashboard of the cursor, you can see that my usage, if I go to the usage or spending, so these are the tokens that are already used. So my API tokens had already been 100% used because I'm using a high-end models. I have so many tokens to utilize on a auto AI models. So you need to keep an eye how much token you have already spent. If you have spent all your token, you need to wait until next day to reset or subscribe with the higher plan if you need more tokens. So it is a limitation. So every commands and every instruction you give to the AI model, you have to be careful that you are giving out a clear plan so you don't have to utilize your token again and again for smaller changes. So remember, each AI model will going to use your token. So depend on the task. If you are building a high-end project, you can use Opus. If you are using a high-end and a medium project, this is a very balanced and this is a very sufficient AI model for the coding. I will recommend you to use this. But for today's video, I'm going to use an auto. So how are we going to use this AI model? For example, I need a website for the learning. I'm going to give it a command. I need a let's say a portfolio website. I need a portfolio website for my name. My name. I'm going to say this. My name is David, for example, and I have let's say 6 years of experience. So I have created my command. I want you to thoroughly create your command and give to this AI model. So what we are looking, we are creating a portfolio website in HTML and CSS, and I have given some instruction I want my navigation and hero section and how my grade to be work and capability of this website. So once you do that, you just need to give this command to the AI model, and you will see that this AI model will start planning. It will going to read all my instruction and create a plan for it. After the plan, he is going to give it a thought that how he can create this website for me. You can see he has separated the plan into 3 different to-do lists, and it will complete each task one by one. We're going to wait until this is complete. So the AI has finished building the website, and for this you can see he has given us a final summary what he has built. I'm going to click keep all, and if I click on this index.html, you can see how great, how manageable code he has written, and he has created a separate JS file and separate CSS file. If I go to this folder and click the index.html file, you see all these things the AI model has created just by the command prompt that I given. You can redefine this, and also you can see it is responsive. If it's not responsive, you can ask it, the AI model, to make it responsive, but so far it's look responsive to me. There was some issue, but you can fix it by giving the command to the AI. So this is how easy the vibe coding is. You can build anything. You can build mobile React Native app. You can build a CRM system. You can build even the React Next.js. You can work on the Laravel Code Igniter projects. So this is how easy the vibe coding is. So this is all for the video, and hopefully you guys liked this video, and don't forget to like and subscribe. If you have any question, please leave your comment and I will be happy to answer you. And it also let us know if you need a deep dive into the vibe coding and HTML CSS, so we can have a boot camp, a longer video explaining each and every function, each and every HTML elements, and creating a more bigger project with vibe coding, a more difficult and more problem solving. So that's it for the video. See you at the next time. Bye.